You have come far, but the path ahead is shadowed with trials.
The human cargo ship drifted beyond the safe trade lanes, where maps turned blank and signals turned weak. Captain Elias Rowan hated this region, not because it was illegal, but because it felt watched. His crew called it the quiet dark, a place where even engines sounded scared. They were carrying medical supplies and spare parts to a frontier colony, nothing special, nothing that should attract attention. Yet for 3 nights in a row, the long-range scanners showed the same impossible thing, a ship following them without a drive signature. It was not moving like a normal vessel, it appeared, vanished, and appeared again, always at the same distance, like it was pacing them. Elias tried to act calm, but his hands stayed near the console. On the 4th night, the ship did not just follow, it cut in front of them. A massive silhouette unfolded from the darkness, whiter than a city block, shaped like a crown made of black metal. No lights, no running signals, only a faint glow along carved lines like ancient writing. The crew froze. Then the comm system opened by itself, no request, no handshake. A voice entered the bridge, smooth, clear, and painfully close, like someone whispering beside Elias's ear. "Human captain, do not flee, you cannot." Elias swallowed and forced his voice steady. "This is a civilian ship, we have no weapons worth your time." The voice paused, and somehow the pause felt heavy, like a judge deciding a sentence. "I am not here for your cargo, I am here for you." The crew looked at Elias as if he had hidden a secret from them. Elias felt cold, because he had never met an alien face to face in his life, not beyond trade stations with masks and translators. "How do you know me?" he asked. The main screen lit up without permission, showing a symbol, a silver circle split by a single vertical line. Every human in the room recognized it, even if they did not want to. The seal of the Vadran Empire, the most feared power in the known spiral, the empire that did not negotiate, it commanded. The empire ruled hundreds of worlds, and people said their empress was not fully alive, not fully machine, not fully anything human minds could understand. Elias's second officer, Mara, whispered, "Captain, that empire eats rebellions for breakfast." The voice returned, calm and certain. "Your ship will dock with mine, your crew will remain unharmed, your captain will come alone, resistance will cause regret." Elias had a choice that was not really a choice. If he refused, his crew could die, if he obeyed, he might die alone. He stared at his crew, saw the fear they tried to hide, and felt the weight of leadership press into his ribs. He nodded slowly. "Prepare to dock," he said. The docking system engaged, but it was not his ship that moved. The Black Crown ship shifted space around them like water bending around a stone. The human ship slid forward, guided without force, without sound. A docking ring formed like a mouth opening, and the airlock lights flashed green. Elias stood, adjusted his uniform collar like it mattered, and moved to the exit. Mara stepped in front of him. "Captain, don't go, we can run." Elias shook his head. "Run where, if they can move like that?" He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Keep the crew steady, if I don't come back, take the ship home." Mara's eyes shone, but she nodded. Elias walked the corridor alone, the sound of his boots too loud. The airlock door opened, and cold air kissed his face. On the other side was a corridor that did not look like any ship interior he had ever seen. It was not metal, it was stone mixed with living light, like crystal veins running through dark rock. The floor pulsed softly under his feet, as if it had a heartbeat. 2 guards waited, tall, armored, their helmets shaped like sharp animal faces. They did not point weapons, they simply turned and began walking, expecting him to follow. Elias followed. The corridor led to a massive door carved with the same silver circle split by a line. The guards stopped, the door opened without touch. Inside was a chamber like a throne hall, bigger than his entire bridge. Floating banners moved like slow water, showing planets, stars, and symbols he could not read. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the Empress. She was smaller than he expected, but the power in the room made her seem enormous. Her skin looked like pale marble touched by moonlight, her eyes were a deep violet, too bright to be natural. A crown of thin metal spines hovered above her head, not resting, but orbiting. She studied Elias like he was a specimen and a memory at the same time. He forced himself to bow slightly. "I am Captain Elias Rowan." The Empress lifted one hand, and the air itself seemed to obey. "I know who you are." Her voice was not loud, yet it filled every corner. Elias felt his throat tighten. "Why am I here?" The Empress's gaze softened in a way that shocked him, like a storm cloud briefly showing sunlight. "Because I." Elias was escorted to a private chamber, not a cell, not a guest room, something between both. The walls glowed softly, and the air smelled like clean rain. A translator device floated near the ceiling, watching him like an eye. He paced in slow steps, trying to calm his thoughts. The Empress's offer felt like a dream that could become a nightmare in one wrong move. A knock came, but the door did not open. A voice spoke through the air, gentle, young, and careful. "Human Captain Elias Rowan." Elias turned. "Yes." The door slid open, and she entered. The daughter. She was taller than the Empress, with long dark hair that shimmered with faint blue strands. Her eyes were the same violet, but less cold, more alive. She wore simple clothing compared to royal images Elias had seen in news clips. No heavy armor, no floating crown, only a thin ring of silver around her wrist, like a restraint disguised as jewelry. She stood near the door as if ready to leave if he showed danger. Elias did not move quickly. "Are you the princess?" he asked. She gave a small nod. "My name is Saralith." Her accent was strange but understandable, like someone who had practiced human language in secret. Elias felt a quiet shock. "You speak English?" Saralith looked down. "I learned, because I wanted to understand humans without filters." Elias rubbed his forehead. "Your mother asked me a question." Saralith's face tightened, and her fingers clenched slightly. "I know," she said softly. Elias studied her, looking for arrogance, cruelty, pride. Instead he saw exhaustion, and fear hidden under training. "What do you want?" he asked. Saralith took a step closer, and her voice lowered. "I want to stop being a weapon." Elias blinked. "A weapon?" Saralith nodded, her eyes shining with anger held back. "In this empire, heirs are not loved, they are used. My mother loves me, but the throne does not. The council wants to marry me into a bloodline they control. If I refuse, they will call me unstable, dangerous, unfit." Elias felt his chest tighten, because suddenly this sounded too familiar, like human politics with sharper knives. "So why me?" he asked. Saralith hesitated. "Because you are unknown." Elias almost laughed. "Unknown?" "Yes," she said, more firmly. "You are outside their plans, outside their family webs, outside their old power games. They cannot predict you. But my mother can." Elias frowned. "How?" Saralith looked away, and for a second her voice broke. "She studied you for years." Elias felt chills. "I have never met her." Saralith's eyes returned to him. "She met you, in a way you did not know." Elias tried to speak, but the room seemed to press in. Saralith continued. "When you were a child, your colony was attacked by raiders. A Vadran patrol arrived. Your people thought they came to take prisoners. But the patrol destroyed the raiders and left." Elias's breath caught. He remembered that day, smoke, fear, screaming. He remembered seeing alien shapes in the sky and thinking he was about to die. Then the raiders vanished, and the aliens vanished too. "That was her," Elias whispered. Saralith nodded. "She watched you from a distance after that. She said you were the first human child she saw who did not beg, who did not hate. You stared at the burning ground and started helping others without being told." Elias felt his eyes sting. He had never spoken of that day. He swallowed. "So she chose me because I was brave as a child." Saralith shook her head. "No, she chose you because you were kind under fear." Elias looked at her, and the room felt less like a trap, more like a test of character. Saralith stepped closer again. "Captain Rowan, I am not asking you to love me. I am asking you to answer my mother in a way that gives me a life. Even if that life is far from the throne. Elias took a slow breath. But if I say yes, I become part of your empire. Saralitha's jaw tightened. Yes, and you become a target. Elias looked at the thin silver ring on her wrist. And you are already a target. Saralitha's eyes softened. Yes. At that moment, the translator device flickered. A second voice cut in, sharp and cold. Human captain, do not trust the princess. Saralith spun, eyes wide. Elias stepped back. Who is that? The air shimmered, and a hologram formed. A Vadran counselor, face hidden behind a mask of gold. The Empress grows weak, her emotions cloud judgment. Her daughter is unstable, and humans are fragile. If you accept, you will drag our empire into disgrace. Saralitha's hands trembled. Leave, she hissed. The counselor ignored her, speaking to Elias. Refuse, and you will be released with riches. Accept, and you will not survive a week. Elias felt the threat under the words. He realized this was bigger than a marriage offer, it was a power war. And the council was already trying to control his answer. The hologram vanished, but the warning stayed like poison in the room. Saralith looked at Elias, fear and pride battling. The Empress summoned Elias again, but this time not to the throne hall. A smaller chamber, round, with a single table carved from black crystal. Only the Empress and two silent guards waited. She dismissed the guards with a flick of her hand, and the door sealed. Elias stood across from her, feeling the air heavy with quiet power. The Empress studied him, then spoke softly. You met my daughter. Elias nodded. Yes. The Empress's shoulders relaxed slightly, as if a mother had been holding breath. Then you know she is not a monster. Elias chose his words carefully. She is someone who wants a life. A tear flickered again in the Empress's eyes, but she did not let it fall this time. Then answer me, she said, voice almost pleading. Elias felt the moment tighten like a rope. He remembered the counselor hologram, the warning. He remembered his crew, still docked to this terrifying ship. He remembered Saralitha's trembling hands and strong promise. He took a breath. I will not accept her as property, or as a political trophy. The Empress blinked, surprised. Elias continued. If your question means, will I stand beside her and help her escape being used? Then yes. The Empress's face broke, not into anger, but into relief so deep it looked like pain leaving her body. Her eyes filled fully, tears finally falling without shame. You answered correctly, she whispered. Elias frowned. Correctly. The Empress leaned forward, voice low. Because my empire is dying from inside. Not from enemies at the border, but from hunger at the center. The council wants my daughter because she carries something rare. Elias felt cold. What? The Empress hesitated, then spoke the truth like a confession. She carries the ability to awaken the Stargate. Elias had heard legends, old stories told by miners and smugglers. A gate that could fold space, open paths to regions no ship could reach. Many said it was myth. But the Empress spoke like it was real. If the council controls her, she said. They control the gate, and with it they will become gods. Elias's mouth went dry. So you are giving her to me to hide her? The Empress nodded slowly. Yes. A human bond is considered shame by many of them. They would never predict I would choose that. It is my last shield. Elias realized how desperate she truly was. He looked at the Empress, a conqueror who could command fleets. Yet she was cornered by her own court. He asked the question that haunted him. Why don't you just destroy them? The Empress's eyes hardened. Because if I strike, civil war begins. Millions will die. And my daughter will be killed in the chaos. Elias exhaled slowly. What happens now? The Empress reached into the air, and a hologram appeared, showing a human ship schematic. His ship. I will release you and your crew, she said. But not immediately. First, you must survive the first wave. Elias's stomach tightened. First wave. The Empress tapped the hologram, and a route lit up. I will send you through a corridor of dead space. No signals, no help. If the Council attacks you there, they cannot claim it publicly. If you survive, you will reach a hidden station. There you will receive new identities, supplies, and protection. Elias stared. This was not an offer anymore, it was a mission. Why trust me with this? He asked. The Empress's voice softened. Because you are not hungry for power. And because my daughter chose to speak to you. She does not open her heart easily. Elias felt the weight of that. He nodded slowly. What do you need from me? The Empress stood, and the room seemed to bow. You will take my daughter as your bonded partner under law. Not as romance, but as protection. You will keep her alive. You will keep the gate secret. And you will give her a choice. A real choice. Elias's mind raced. And if we fail? The Empress's face went still, like a statue. Then everything ends. A sound suddenly echoed through the ship, not an alarm, but a deep vibration. The Empress's eyes flicked upward. Her voice sharpened. They are here sooner than expected. Elias's heart kicked. Who? The Empress's hand lifted, and the room's ceiling became a window. Stars outside shifted, and a fleet appeared, dozens of sleek warships sliding from folded space like knives from sleeves. No flags, no signals. But Elias understood. The Council had moved. The Empress looked at Elias with fierce urgency. Go to your ship, take my daughter, now. Elias turned, already running. Because the first wave had arrived. And he realized the real hook of this story was not the Empress's question. It was what the answer would cost. Elias sprinted through the glowing corridors, escorted by guards who moved like silent shadows. The ship trembled slightly as distant impacts echoed through its structure. Not explosions, more like pressure waves, as if the enemy was testing shields. He reached the docking corridor and saw his crew through the airlock window, faces pale, hands ready at controls. Mara saw him and opened the channel. Captain, what is happening? Get ready to detach, Elias said, voice tight. We're leaving now, with a passenger. Mara's eyes widened, but she nodded. The airlock opened, and Elias stepped into his ship. Behind him came Sarilith, hood up, walking quickly but controlled. The crew stared, shock and fear mixing. Mara's hand hovered near her sidearm. Elias raised his palm. She's with us. Sarilith did not flinch, but her eyes moved across the crew, searching for hatred. Instead, she saw confusion. Elias spoke fast. We don't have time, prepare for evasive departure. The ship shook harder, warning lights flickered. The Empress's voice entered their comms. Human ship, depart immediately, your path is open for 12 breaths. Elias sat in the captain's seat, hands moving over controls. Mara took her station. The engines roared. Outside, the Black Crown ship shifted position like a shield, placing itself between Elias and the approaching fleet. For a moment, Elias saw the scale of the Empress's power. Her single ship stood against a fleet. And she did it without hesitation. Detach, Elias ordered. Clamps released, the ship drifted free. Then the Empress did something impossible. Space rippled ahead of Elias's ship, forming a narrow tunnel of dark light, like a wound in reality. Go, the Empress commanded. Elias slammed the throttle, and the ship plunged into the tunnel. Stars stretched, sound vanished. For a second, it felt like falling through cold water. Then everything went black. No stars, no signals, no time markers. Only the hum of the ship and the breathing of the crew. Mara whispered. Where are we? Sarilith answered softly. Dead corridor. Elias glanced back. You know this place. Sarilith nodded. It is where unwanted ships disappear. The council uses it. The crew went silent. Elias felt the trap closing. Because if the council used this corridor, they would know how to hunt inside it. Minutes passed like hours. Then the sensor officer spoke, voice shaking. "Captain, I'm picking up movement, no signature, but something is there." Elias's hands tightened. "How many?" The officer swallowed. 3, no, 5. "They're matching our speed without engines." Mara's eyes widened. "That's what followed us before." Saralitha's face turned pale. "They are Wraith craft," she whispered. Elias looked at her. "Wraith craft." Saralitha's voice lowered. "Drones controlled by minds. They do not need fuel. They only need a target." Elias's ship shook, not from impact, but from a wave of pressure. The lights dimmed. A voice entered the ship's calm, not the Empress, not the counselor. A different voice, calm, cruel, amused. "Human captain, thank you for carrying our prize." Elias's blood ran cold. Mara slammed her fist. "Who is this?" The voice laughed softly. "I am Regent Vasker, acting hand of the council. Return the princess, and your crew will be spared. Refuse, and this corridor will become your grave." Elias looked at Saralith, who stood behind him, hands clenched. Her eyes burned with fear and anger. Elias spoke into the calm. "No deal." The regent sighed dramatically. "Then you choose death." The ship's alarms finally screamed. Energy spikes hit their shields, invisible attacks from unseen drones. The crew shouted, systems flared red. Elias shouted orders. Full power to shields, cut lights, dump heat. They went dark, like a dead ship. The Wraith drone circled, confused for a moment. Elias pushed the ship into a spinning drift, using momentum to slip sideways through the corridor. Mara looked at him, eyes wide. "This won't hold." Elias knew. Their ship was not built for war. Then Saralith stepped forward, voice tight. "Let me." Elias turned. "What?" Saralith lifted her wrist, showing the silver ring. "This is a limiter. If I break it, they will feel me." Elias hesitated. "You'll become a beacon." Saralitha's eyes locked onto his. "They already hunt us. Better to blind them first." Elias swallowed, then nodded once. Saralith closed her eyes, fingers gripping the ring. A soft crack sounded, like ice breaking. The ring shattered, and violet light spilled from her hand. The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized. Outside, the corridor changed. Lines of faint light appeared like hidden pathways. The Wraith drones suddenly froze, as if their minds hit a wall. Regent Vasker's voice returned, sharp now. "What have you done?" Saralitha's voice was steady but strained. "I remembered who I am." Elias saw her face tighten with pain. The corridor opened ahead, a path forming like a doorway. Elias took it instantly, engines burn. The ship exited the dead corridor into normal starspace, and the crew cheered for 1 second. Then the navigation screen lit up with a warning. A beacon signal had latched onto them, like a parasite. Mara cursed under her breath. "They tagged us." Elias stared. "How?" Saralith spoke weakly. "When I broke the limiter. It was like lighting a fire in the dark." Elias felt anger rise, not at her, but at the situation. He forced it down. "Can we shake it?" he asked. The engineer shook his head. "It's not on our hull, Captain. It's in our signal shadow. Like they're tracking our wake." Elias thought fast. They needed help, but the Empress was locked in battle. The hidden station was still hours away. And now every enemy ship would know their route. Mara leaned close. "We could drop into an asteroid belt, hide in debris." Elias nodded. "Plot the nearest one." The map showed a belt, but it was inside a restricted zone. A dead world system, labeled only with warning marks. The crew hesitated. Elias made the decision. We go there. The ship dove toward the belt, rocks and ice tumbling like broken teeth. They cut engines and drifted, hiding behind a massive asteroid. For a moment, the silence felt safe. Then the calm crackled. Regent Vasker again. You can hide, but you cannot vanish. Mara whispered. He's enjoying this. Elias looked at Sarilith, who sat against the wall, eyes closed, recovering. He realized their enemy was not just chasing. He was testing, probing, waiting for the perfect strike. The sensor officer suddenly spoke. Captain, multiple contacts entering the belt. Elias's jaw tightened. How many? 8 warships. Mara exhaled. We can't fight 8. Elias stared at the asteroid field, then at Sarilith. Can you do that corridor trick again? Sarilith opened her eyes slowly. I can, but each time it hurts, and each time the gate calls back. Elias frowned. The gate? Sarilith's voice lowered. The Stargate is not a machine. It is awake. When I use my power, it listens. Elias felt a chill. An ancient force listening to them. The ships drew closer, scanning. Elias made a risky choice. Then we don't run, we mislead. He ordered the engineer to eject a fake drive core into open space, then ignite it. The core flared like an engine burst, racing out of the belt. The enemy ships turned, chasing the false signal. 3 stayed behind, sweeping slowly. Elias whispered. Not enough. Mara looked at him. What now? Elias stared at the dead planet in the system, a dark globe with no lights. He pointed. We land. Mara's eyes widened. That planet is listed as cursed space. Elias replied. Good, maybe they fear it. The ship descended through thin atmosphere, dust storms rising. The ground was cracked, black stone stretching like scars. They landed in a canyon, hidden from orbit scanners. The crew moved quietly. Sarilith stepped out last, staring at the horizon like she recognized it. Elias asked. You know this world? Sarilith's voice shook. This is where the Stargate sleeps. The words hit the crew like a cold wave. Mara whispered. You brought us to the monster's bed. Sarilith nodded slowly. Yes. And now it knows I am here. A low hum rose from beneath the ground, not sound exactly, more like vibration inside bones. Elias felt his teeth ache. The canyon walls began to glow with faint lines, similar to the Empress ship carvings. The air thickened. Then a shadow moved in the sky. Enemy ships had arrived, hovering above the canyon. Regent Vasker's voice echoed through loudspeakers. Princess, you have nowhere left. Elias looked up, heart pounding. Sarilith stepped forward, tears in her eyes now, not from fear, but from pain. Elias realized the hook was about to become bigger than politics. Because the Stargate was waking. And it was not clear if it would save them. Or swallow them. The canyon glowed brighter, lines spreading like veins through stone. The enemy ships lowered, weapons charging. Elias's crew hid behind rocks, holding tools like weapons, knowing it was useless. Regent Vasker descended in a shuttle, confident, surrounded by guards. He wore armor like polished obsidian, his mask shaped like a smiling skull. He walked towards Sarilith as if she already belonged to him. Your mother's weakness ends today, he said. Sarilith's hands trembled, violet light flickering around her fingers. Elias stepped beside her. You'll have to go through me. Vasker laughed. A human thinks he can block an empire. He raised a device, a collar of energy, meant to bind Sarilith again. Sarilith closed her eyes, and tears rolled down her face. Elias remembered the Empress's tears, and understood. These were not tears of surrender. They were tears of love and fear and impossible duty. Sarilith whispered. I don't want to hurt anyone. Elias spoke softly. Then don't. Just choose. Sarilith opened her eyes, and they burned like stars. She lifted both hands, and the ground split. Not violently, but precisely, like a door opening in stone. A circular structure rose from beneath the canyon, ancient, massive, covered in the same symbols. The Stargate. It hummed louder, and the sky darkened as if space itself leaned closer. Vasker stepped back, his confidence cracking for the first time. No! You were not supposed to come here. Sarilith's voice shook. You forced me. The gate's center filled with swirling light, not white, but deep violet and black, like a storm made of night. Elias felt gravity shift, pulling. The enemy ships above began to tilt, their stabilizers fighting invisible force. Vasker shouted orders, but his guards panicked. Sarilith looked at Elias, tears still falling. This gate can take us somewhere they cannot follow. Elias swallowed. Can it? Sarilith nodded. But it will also change everything. Once it opens, the Empire will never be the same. Elias looked back at his crew, at Mara, who stared in awe. He realized this was the decision point. Not just his answer to the Empress, but whether they would ignite a legend. Vasker rushed forward, trying to grab Sarilith. Elias moved fast, slamming him back with a strike. For a second, Elias felt shock. He had just hit a regent of a galaxy empire. Vasker stumbled, furious. You will die for that. Sarilith screamed, not in anger, but in release. The gate opened fully, and a wave of energy swept outward. Enemy ships screamed in metal groans as they were pulled toward the swirling center. Some tried to escape, but the pull was too strong. Vasker's shuttle lifted, trying to flee. But the gate caught it like a hand catching an insect. Vasker shouted, a sound of real fear. No, wait. Sarilith's tears fell harder as she watched ships being dragged. Elias grabbed her shoulder. Focus on us. Sarilith nodded, breathing hard. She turned the gate's pull, narrowing it like a funnel, sparing the canyon, sparing the crew. Elias shouted. Everyone, into the ship, now. They ran, engines roaring. The ship lifted, shaking, and flew directly into the gate's swirling center. Elias saw Vasker's shuttle spinning beside them, pulled helplessly. Vasker's voice screamed through columns, begging, threatening, promising. Then the gate swallowed everything. The universe became a tunnel of light and darkness. Elias felt his mind stretch, memories flashing like sparks. Then silence. And a new sky appeared. Stars arranged differently, brighter, unfamiliar. They had crossed beyond known maps. The ship stabilized, crew gasping. Sarilith collapsed to her knees, tears still falling. Elias knelt beside her. We made it. Sarilith whispered. Yes. But now, we are alone. Mara looked at the star map and went pale. Captain, we're not just off course. Elias looked. The map showed nothing. No known systems, no trade lanes, no empire borders. Only one signal pulsing faintly in the distance. A signal that looked like the same silver circle split by a line. But older, deeper. Like the Empire's symbol came from here. Elias realized the Stargate did not just move ships. It moved destiny. The ship approached the pulsing signal slowly, cautious. A massive structure floated ahead, not a station, not a ship, something like a city carved into an asteroid. Its surface was covered in the same glowing lines, but more complex, more alive. As they got closer, the structure responded. Lights awakened like eyes opening. A dock formed without contact, guiding them in. Elias stepped out first, followed by Sarilith, who walked slowly, still weak. Mara and a few crew followed, carrying scanners. Inside was a hall filled with silent statues of alien shapes, tall, thin, crowned. Not Vadran exactly, but related, like ancestors. Sarilith whispered. This is the origin. Elias asked. Origin of what? Sarilith's voice trembled. Of my bloodline. Of the gate. Of the throne. A voice then filled the hall, not from speakers, but from the walls. "Welcome, heir of tears." Seralith froze. Elias stepped in front of her again. "Who are you?" The voice answered, calm, ancient, and strangely gentle. "I am the Keeper." A figure formed from light, tall, faceless, wrapped in symbols like flowing cloth. It looked at Seralith. "You opened the gate with sorrow and choice, not hunger. That is why you live." Elias frowned. "What is this place?" The Keeper turned toward him. "It is a refuge for rulers who refuse to become tyrants. A library of decisions." Seralith's eyes filled again. "My mother," she whispered. "She is still fighting." The Keeper nodded. "She fights so you can choose. But her time is short." Elias's chest tightened. "Can we help her?" The Keeper paused. "Not with fleets. But with truth." A hologram appeared, showing the Empire, the Council, Vasker's faction. The Keeper explained without emotion. The Council had planned to use Seralith's gate ability to expand instantly, crush rivals, and rule forever. The Empress resisted, but her body was failing, and the Council sensed weakness. Seralith wiped tears, voice firm. "What truth?" The Keeper replied. "The Empire obeys strength. But it also fears legitimacy. If the heir returns not as a captive, but as a chosen leader, many will follow her instead of the Council." Elias understood. They needed to change the story. Not by violence, but by showing the Empire a new symbol. Seralith looked at Elias. "This is why my mother asked you," she whispered. "She needed someone outside the Empire's poison. Someone who would not treat me like a tool." Elias felt the moment tighten again, like part one, but deeper now. He remembered the Empress's question. "Do you want my daughter?" And the tears at his answer. Now he understood those tears were not only fear. They were hope. The Keeper lifted a glowing shard, like a crystal key. "This is the Heart Seal. It will broadcast one message through every Imperial channel. One message only." Seralith stared. "What message?" The Keeper said. "Your choice." Elias looked at Seralith. She was trembling, but she stood taller now. Not a prisoner, not a prize. A person ready to claim her life. Seralith spoke, voice clear. "I will return. Not to be owned, but to lead." Elias nodded. "And I will stand beside you. Not as your master. Not as your savior. But as your ally." Seralith's eyes filled one last time, and she smiled through tears. The Keeper pressed the heart seal into her palm. The structure around them hummed. A new gate formed, stable, controlled. Back to the Empire. Back to the war. Back to the Council. Elias looked at his crew. Fear remained, but now it was mixed with purpose. They entered the ship, lifted off, and flew into the returning gate. As they crossed, Seralith activated the heart seal. A message surged across the Empire. Not a threat, not a demand. A simple declaration of identity and choice. When they emerged near the Imperial capital, chaos filled space, ships clashing, signals screaming. But then the message reached them all. The heir was alive. She had opened the gate. And she had returned by choice. In the throne hall, the counselors froze. On battle screens, loyal fleets hesitated. Because legitimacy was stronger than fear. The Empress, still alive, watched the broadcast with tears streaming freely now. Not tears of weakness. Tears of a mother seeing her child become free.